We hear a lot of talk about unity. It's a word that is frequently used. We must stand united. We must come together and unify. But too often, we don't actually think about what that means. To say we have to unite just for the sake of unity, what does it mean? We can unite around the wrong things. We can unite around a negative cause that results in a negative impact. And so when we talk about standing united as Americans, we have to understand what that really means. What is it that binds us together? What are the fundamental principles that we must stand together on, whether we are Democrats or Republicans or people of different religions, people of different backgrounds or different views on certain policies? Fundamentally, the thing that we must unite on is our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in our Constitution, and that every one of us as Americans must remain committed and dedicated to defending. That is our foundation. When we talk about America, we can look at borders, we can look at land, we can look at territories, but when we truly look at what does it mean to be an American, and the responsibility that every single one of us as Americans carries with us, it is centered on our foundational principles, on that vision that our founders had for us, knowing way back then how challenging it would be and how there would be frequent and consistent attacks on our freedom, and it would be up to us to defend them. And that's exactly where we are today. Charlie understood these threats. He saw them and focused completely on this defense of freedom, not just in words, but in action. He lived that truth that so many of us who either have worn the uniform or wear the uniform live by. I may disagree with what you say, but I will defend it to the death your right to say it. That's real. And Charlie lived and died by that principle, that no matter how offensive or horrible or disgusting someone's speech is, no matter how much we disagree with it, it's up to us to stand up and protect and defend their right to say it. And to stand as Charlie did and defeat that weak or dark speech, that ideology, with a superior ideology that's focused on freedom. You know, thinking about the threats to our freedom, in these gatherings across the country that TPUSA hosts, we often talk about the attacks on freedom that came from the Biden administration, how they sought to censor us in different ways, how they sought to spread disinformation to try to limit or control or curate what we saw and what we heard, how they lifted up certain voices and hushed others, reaching into their propaganda arms and compelling social media companies to do their dirty work for them. But there is a threat to our freedom that is not often talked about enough. And it is the greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security, and that is the threat of Islamist ideology. It is propagated by people who not only do not believe in freedom, their fundamental ideology is antithetical to the foundation that we find in our Constitution and Bill of Rights, which is that our Creator endowed upon us inalienable rights, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, Charlie focused on this quite a bit. He talked about it in ways that very few others did because he understood this direct threat to freedom. When we look back to the attack on 9/11 that happened 24 years ago now, it changed so many of our lives, where thousands of Americans were killed by Islamist jihadis who attacked us on that day. And we were confronted with the reality of the lengths that they will go to try to attack the foundations of who we are as a country. It was a day that changed my life, probably like some of you in the room. It's what motivated me to enlist in the Army, to go out and to fight and to defend and defeat, to defend our freedom and defeat those who are attacking us. But when we talk about this Islamist ideology, yes, it is the ideology that fuels terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS and Al-Shabaab and Hamas and Boko Haram and others. And they must be defeated militarily. As they continue to actively plot and try to attack us. They are a threat to our security and our safety. But this Islamist ideology is a direct threat to our freedom because at its core, it is a political ideology that seeks to create a global caliphate that governs us here in America, threatening Western civilization, governance by Sharia law, governance by what they are calling their Islamic principles. And if you fail to comply, if you fail to adhere to this ideology, if you dare to exercise your God-given right to free speech, censorship is not what we face. They will use violence or any means they deem as necessary to silence us. If we don't take action to identify this threat, to define it, to call it out for what it is, and take action to defeat it, then we will find ourselves in a place where many European countries and countries like Australia have found themselves. Countries where you can get arrested for praying silently on the street corner, as has happened in the UK. Countries where you can be arrested for putting up a social media post that someone finds offensive somewhere. The threats from this Islamist ideology come in many forms. As we approach Christmas right now in Germany, they are canceling Christmas markets because of this threat. In places like Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, Minnesota, Islamist clerics are openly pushing this Islamist ideology, trying to recruit and radicalize young people. Earlier this year, there was a conference that was held representing organizations like the Council on American Islamic Relations, also known as CARE, which issued a call to action to use American legal and political systems to implement Sharia law. This is already underway in places. This is already underway in places like Houston. This is not something that may possibly happen. It is already happening here within our borders. Paterson, New Jersey is proud to call themselves the first Muslim city. They are working to implement in their own governments these Islamic principles that are forced on people through the use of laws or violence. The bottom line is this: when we talk about the threat of Islamism, this political ideology, there is no such thing as individual freedom or liberty. As Charlie said over and over again, it is fundamentally incompatible with our nation's foundation of freedom. And at its core, when we understand that our freedom comes from God and no one else, we understand the seriousness of this Islamist ideology threat, because it means they deny that God is the one who has bestowed this right to freedom in every one of us. So what do? We as Americans have to stand proudly for freedom and understand that a free society cannot survive if it refuses to defend itself. You don't preserve freedom of speech by canceling it. We preserve free speech by exercising it, by using more of it, encouraging more speech. We protect our Constitution by ensuring loyalty to the Constitution. We protect our democratic republic by ensuring that we, the people, elect leaders who not only believe in American values, but actually live them. Leaders who are committed to ensuring that we have a government of, by, and for the people, and leaders who most importantly put freedom and the interests and well-being of the American people first in every single decision that they make. You know, one of the things that Charlie and I talked most often about was peace. And this was the topic of the last in-person conversation that I had with Charlie. It's the topic of peace. He was a consistent and powerful advocate for peace because he understood that in order for us to be truly free and prosperous, we must be at peace. He understood the importance of President Eisenhower's farewell address when he warned that, quote, "In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist. We must never let the weight of this combination endanger our liberties or our democratic process." That warning rings as true today as it did back then when he said it as a retired general who led during wartime and as a president and commander-in-chief of the United States. He understood then, as we do now, that too often we, the American people, are told we must choose between liberty or security. And which side often wins out in that proposition? Liberty loses. And the warmongers claim that they are doing what they are doing for the sake of our security. It's a lie. Eisenhower issued this warning because he understood the power of the influence of the military-industrial complex and how those who seek to keep us in a persistent state of war deny the heavy cost that it takes in human lives, in taxpayer dollars, and in the erosion of our liberties, wars that have nothing to do with ensuring our security or our liberty. Now, this is something that we're dealing with right now in real time. As you know, President Trump has been persistently and relentlessly pursuing a peace deal to finally end the war between Russia and Ukraine. He talks frequently about the need to end the killing and the bloodshed, and his teams are negotiating now as we gather here. But what I've seen over these months is that every time they make progress and they move closer and closer to that hope for peace, the warmongers in the deep state step up and try to do everything they can to stop them. Predictably, they use the same old tactics that they've always used. The deep state within the intelligence community weaponizes intelligence to try to undermine progress. They leak it to their friends in the mainstream propaganda media to try to spread this and push a false narrative. They foment fear and hysteria as a way to justify the continuing of the war and their efforts to undermine President Trump's efforts towards peace. And do so specifically in this case in order to try to pull the U.S. military into a direct conflict with Russia, which is ultimately what the EU and NATO want.
The European Union, the UN, and the WHO all need to be abolished. I'm seeing a lot of ex-accounts from Europe trying to rile up Western Europeans to go to war with Russia because they can't fund enough money in the Ukraine anymore, and now they're basically going to go after the entire country of Russia. And now they're saying things like, oh, well, if the United States doesn't want to back us, we'll go in there by ourselves. With what? Tampons, soy boys, tight pants, men who cross their legs when they sit, bunch of pussies. That's who you're going to bring into a war with Russia? Love to see that, you know what I mean? But there's this guy named Gunther who's a self-proclaimed moron who says that he's part of NATO, but even NATO went online and was like, we don't know this loser. So he made his own NGOs that nobody is funding because he's a loser. But I'm seeing these accounts pop up and basically saying that America, they don't need them, and America this, but he took the bait. So let me just show you. Gunther here writes, Europeans will never be slaves. No, nobody. So I wrote, then why are you arresting people for telling the truth online and trying to enslave them into a digital prison? Gunther, dummy, took the bait. He goes, these mega Americans have lost it. How come you can equate a real Russian torture chamber with a digital prison? How come you can claim we arrest people for telling the truth online when we arrest mainly Nazis for instigating hate crimes online? If we were really so bad, your accounts would all be gone long time and forever. German police investigate Gab user for calling female politician fat, and fat is in quotes. This is the politician in question. So let me ask you something, Gunther. Do you see a Victoria's Secret model in that picture, or are we both seeing the same thing? Because it's true. You guys are bitches to the EU. You're not sovereign. That's why Hungary is getting fined $1 million a day because they don't want the undesirables in their country. You are literally, by law, required to take in these undesirables, and now you're telling white Europeans to go fight for you dummies and fight against Russia? Well, what? You bring in all the Muhammads who are pretty much like not contributing anything to society, skyrocketing rape, skyrocketing crimes such as burglaries, and I've got the statistics to show it in case you decide to bitch about this little video. But let me just show you this, because you actually admitted you guys are a bunch of pussies without the United States, because the United States is the biggest financier to NATO and also has the most powerful military in the world. And let's face it, you'd be a DEI hire if you tried to get in, but you admitted it in this post. Gunther here with his titties out writes, if Trump Vance win and withdraw U.S. Navy from European seas and will leave us as easy prey to Russia and Iran, yeah, because you're pussies, right? Without the United States, what are you going to do about it? It will end up me, Admiral, which is fake, he's not, Fellinger Jan to lead European naval forces to victory. Wish me luck. But please, at U.S. Navy, if you could stay around a decade, it would help. So, you're admitting you're a pussy and you'd be a nobody without the United States, but then you're shitting on them online. Du bist ein Idiot und ein Arschloch. Okay, tschüss.
We cannot allow this to happen. We have to see clearly what's happening before our very eyes and stand united in this cause of peace.
The most obvious impact on all of us will be the cost of building this resilience. Sons and daughters, colleagues, veterans will all have a part to play, to build, to serve, and if necessary, to fight. And more families will know what sacrifice for our nation means.
I want you all to understand that the Lions, everyone's asking for the Lions to wake up, the Lions to do this. Now, I am a Lion of England, and I've served in a regiment that is represented as a lion. And we understand what's going on. And this is now a speech to you all from a lion. We are awake. We understand what's going on. Now, I served in Afghanistan. Herrick 12 and Herrick 17. Now, Herrick 12 was back in 2010. Okay. Now, 2010, we had kids shooting us in Afghanistan. We had kids shooting us. We had kids planting IEDs. We had kids throwing stones at us. And we was there to uphold the peace, make sure the civilians are safe from the Taliban. The Taliban were the main threat. And the Taliban would raid homes of the people that live out there and tell the kids to come and attack us. Tell the fathers to come and attack us, or they're going to kill the family. And that is what they did. They come and attacked us. Now, them kids that did that, them kids that planted the IEDs, them kids that attacked us, because we, as humans and as British and UK people, wouldn't like to kill kids. We wouldn't do that. We don't. We'd see every single possible outcome we could turn to not do that. Hence the time when a kid come up to my friend asking for water and got point blank and shot him with a pistol. Kid ran away. Now that kid, let's just take an example from this. That kid would now be, 15 years ago? So he'd be in his 20s, early 30s, if. No, he'd be in his 20s, because I'm 30s, so he'd be in his 20s. What age are the people coming over on dinghies into the UK? 20s? So that kid that shot my mate could possibly be in the UK in a 3, 4, 5-star hotel, receiving food, anything he wants, by us taxpayers. Us. Can you see what I'm getting at? Can you see what I'm doing? Because in that period, in 2010, when I was there, they were kids. Now they're the age of people coming over here on the dinghies, which our government are letting in. They're being put up in hotels, while the people that served in that war zone in that period are on the streets, starving, killing themselves, but yet they're in hotels. What government are we supporting? What government would do that to the British and the UK people? What? It doesn't make sense to have the people that have been out there and fought for this country to sit on the street and watch the people they fought against be put in a hotel. And then you've got the leftists saying they're fleeing from a war-bidden country. They are fleeing from this and fleeing from that. Let's make sense of this. They're coming from that country that we tried to help back in 2010. Back when we was at war in that country. And a war zone isn't what you all think. We was there to help the civilians. We was training the police force. We was working alongside of their army. We was working alongside of their police force. Training them. Doing what we could to help the civilians. It wasn't COD. It wasn't what you all think it is in a war zone. We're out there slaughtering people. We was trying to help. And now we're back home. It's not our fault that country has crumbled. Not our fault. But yet they're all over here seeking help. Have we not offered enough? Have we not offered enough? We have risked brothers and sisters' lives of this country to help them. That is what we have done. And now they're here taking our lives, our children's lives, raping our children. And they put in hotels. What is going on? So as a lion, we are not asleep. We see what is happening. And the shadows will rise.